Welcome to CalTV. My name is Tomas Manglona, reporting for CalTV News. As some of our viewers might know, Ben Shapiro will be visiting our campus tomorrow, a conservative and some may describe him as controversial speaker, and this has been described by some of people in the media as a test run to the year of free speech that Chancellor Chris says that she's going to have this year. Of course, the Free Speech Week will feature speakers such as Maya Yiannopoulos and Culture, and Steve Bannon has just confirmed that he also will be coming to speak during this Free Speech Week. And today we have Senator Juniper Angelica Cordova speaking with us, and the senator took to social media on the senator's Facebook page and had some tips for students regarding the event, and that's why we're here speaking with you today, Senator. So do you mind telling us what prompted you to post those different tips, and maybe provide a brief background on what those tips are for the students? Definitely. Or reminders, right?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, so my goal, I think our goal as senators and anyone at ASUC is to be as transparent as possible and make sure our students know what's happening on campus. And that includes being transparent in the possible conflicts that are going to arise, which is Ben Shapiro is definitely one of them. So on Facebook, my goal is just to make sure students are aware of what's happening. That includes the building closures, as well as that students are aware of what exactly is happening behind closed door in terms of who's agreeing to pay for these venues, also what's being paid for by groups who are bringing these violent speakers to campus.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. And so actually I've spoken to a number of students both in class and outside of class, who are wondering exactly what the significance of the building closures are. They're saying the building's going to be closed for a few hours. What's the big deal? Do you mind kind of explaining that for the audience?
Definitely, right. So essentially buildings that are closed are just buildings that are closed, but I think this is a lot more symbolic, I think, because so Ben Shapiro is coming to campus, and obviously his viewpoints are very violent towards certain communities. Historically, he has targeted multiple communities. That includes queer and trans folks, black and brown students, as well as undocumented folks. And because he's going to speak in Zellerbach, and the buildings around there are MLK, Cesar Chavez, and Eshelman. Those are usually the buildings that were first meant and fought for by these communities and will be closed and not accessible for them.
Right, so things such as the Multicultural Student Center and all the Multicultural Student Development offices are there as well.
Right, yeah, so the MCC, GenEC, all these offices and spaces that we fought for as students for these spaces where we feel safe and included will now be closed at a time that we possibly might need them the most.
I see. And so one thing that you outlined in that post was that the venue will cost about $20,000, I believe is what you stated, and that this money is being paid for by organizations who host events in Zellerbach. You say specifically that it's being subsidized by the university. What is problematic, or what do you take issue with that?
Right. So I don't think the issue that we're speaking on this campus is necessarily free speech. I think the UC Berkeley, I think the Senate, I think everyone has kind of stated we support free speech. I mean, that allows me to be speaking right now, right? I think the issue is how active we are in promoting and supporting these violent speakers on the campus. So the idea that this venue, which usually costs organizations upwards of $20,000 to rent out for a night, the fact that it's being subsidized by the university is just blatantly, it's contradictory to what we stand for as a university, which is respect and dignity and all these moral values that we have. But here we are paying for the speaker to come, whereas other groups have to pay for themselves for their venues.
All right. So in speaking with some university officials, we're hearing that it goes both ways, and so if they're currently under a lawsuit, as I'm sure you're aware of, and so what they're saying is that if they don't fund this event, then also events that we consider maybe more acceptable, whatever relative meaning that is to our viewers, that those events are also being funded. And so what is your comment on that issue of if we fund all the other events, then these events also need to be subsidized, as you put it?
Right. So I think the primary problem is the lack of transparency and communication from the very top of the university to us as Senate to the students. In that multiple things are being said and no one's really clear as to what's happening. What I have heard is that this is a one-time exception that's being made, that's being subsidized for this group, of which historically all the other events over the past few years that have been put on by multicultural centers and student groups have never been subsidized like this to this extent. So the idea that we're going to balance it out in the future and make sure all groups are are protected on unequal playing field is one, I think, a stretch of like, is that actually going to happen, or is that being told to us just to quiet us down now? But also, even if groups that are having events that are celebrating diversity and celebrating like equity and all these things, even if they are subsidized in the future, that doesn't erase the fact that currently, right now, the situation is about subsidizing the hate speech. And that's the real issue. I would love for all these multicultural centers and student groups to be funded and to be supported like this in the future. And I think that should happen regardless of the fact. But right now, the situation is a matter of, is a university supporting this hate speech or is it not?
All right, and so another thing you talk about and cover in your commentary is the idea of the police presence. This necessarily isn't something new to the Berkeley community or the campus at large. Last year, when Unculture was supposed to come and speak, we saw the increased presence. It was very present on campus, along with the orange barricades, people hopping over them to get to class. Could you maybe explain your views on that and how police presence you think will affect people who voted for you in this position, and also just in general the electorate as a whole?
Yeah. So inherently, historically the police have been existing to protect state and property, and never really the communities that we have here at Berkeley. Right. So historically, the Black and Brown communities, queer and trans folks, undocumented folks, and all other folks, historically were never included in this idea of like who the police are here to protect. So to have so many police on campus is just re-traumatizing for so many communities who have historically dealt with so much trauma that stems from the police state. So to have such a big presence like we did on Culture's Day was extraordinarily breathtaking in a very negative way, in that I did not expect the university to, for one, front the cost for this, but also to put students who are asking to be protected into this re-traumatizing state. So for Ben's event, we have been told by the Chancellor that she expects an increase in police presence, regardless of what many people have explicitly said, that we don't want more police. Like that to feel protected is not to give us more police officers. So to have the university continue to increase police presence, knowingly when the marginalized communities who are being attacked by all these speakers are then going to be re-traumatizing, is just another issue that we're trying to deal with. But it's a matter. Yeah.
All right, thanks for sharing that. And so another thing that we want to address is that the Superior event is happening tomorrow. You talked about the presence that happened last academic year. What do you want to tell students who may be showing up, may not be showing up? What is your message to them?
I have many messages. I think at the core of it, my core value is just community safety. And that looks different for everyone, I think. And I need students to understand that while we would really appreciate a university administration that actively doing everything they can to protect students, this event is being allowed to happen, which sends messages just like that, right? So students need to protect themselves. So, but also we have the right to organize. And I hope to see students organizing and making sure that our messages and our worries are not silenced and are really present. So between organizing and between taking care of ourselves and staying home, it's a matter of finding community and make sure we're supporting each other until we have an administration that is actively supporting us as well. And I really hope that students are taking the opportunity to learn and to understand that historically all social movements for liberation have been rooted in taking agency over our own bodies and over our own movements, and if there's any silver lining, that's the one exciting aspect that I think that I do see, is that these events constantly are just showing the power that students have and showing the dedication to solidarity we have, and I hope to see more of that.
All right, and so what are your other ASUC colleagues, both senators, staffers? What is the commentary around the office? What is being said within your colleagues about this event? You shared your thoughts. What is the atmosphere like within the ASUC?
Yeah, so I'm definitely speaking from my own perspective here, and I think our perspectives and our different backgrounds offer us a wide variety of opinions and stances on these issues. I think at the core of it, the ASUC stands for, it's here for students and making sure that we do everything we can to protect and represent students. But I think at the core that we all agree on that. I think the avenues of which we take, that what protection looks like, what representation looks like, and what free speech and hate speech mean, that's a varied array of opinions, I think. But overall, I do believe we all at least are working toward one goal, which is community safety.
All right, and so obviously the conversation doesn't end here. This is what Chancellor Carol Chris is calling the year of free speech. We know that the effects of what we do on the campus can last very much years beyond that. So thank you for your time. I do want to ask you before we end the conversation, just for this interview, it's going to be ongoing, of course. What is your last message that you want students to know, the administration, any last comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core of it, like I said earlier, I don't think the issue here is free speech. I think the university has been very clear that we value free speech, and that historically that has been part of our legacy. I think the ASUC has also stated over and over that we value free speech, and so have organizers on all sides say that free speech is what allows us to organize and protest and really just say what we need to in order to survive. I think the real issue here is what safety looks like, and what protecting communities who are already marginalized looks like. And that includes having conversations as to, yes, we know what the Constitution says, yes, we know what the laws say, but these are what the students are saying. This is what the students need for us to protect. And sometimes that means we need a university to push up against what the state is saying and truly advocate and make sure we're doing everything in our power to protect folks. Because the university has power. The University of California has immense power in this nation, and so does the ASUC, and so do all people in power. So I think what the issue here is making sure folks who are in positions of power are doing everything we can to protect students who are already marginalized and needing our protection. So that's what I think the real issue here is, and I am excited to see more and more students and professors organize. I think the professors just released their boycott against the alt-right as well. So I'm excited to see many community groups come together and organize, but I would be lying if I say I'm not worried for the safety of our students. I don't know what tomorrow's event's going to look like. I don't know what the Free Speech Week will look like. But I know I'm not stopping until our students feel a little more sense of protection, and I know other organizers on campus aren't as well. So I'm excited and worried, but this is worth it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Senator Juniper, for joining us. And we want to thank our audience as well for joining us. Like we said in the interview, this isn't the end of the conversation. We hope to maintain an active conversation with both our student leaders, campus leaders, and the community at large. Thank you for tuning in to CalTV, and be sure to stay tuned throughout the entire year for more on this and other entertainment, news, sports, and comedy segments. Thank you.